ladies and gentlemen, depending on where you are. We can say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and we hope that you are doing fine. I'm here as a moderator of today's session. My name is Aimable Twagirayezu. I work for PAFO, Pan-African Farmers Organization. Here today, we have a very interesting webinar whose theme is empowering youth and women in agri-food, bridging entrepreneurship and job creation for sustainable impact. This is a very important topic because the women and youth form the backbone of African agriculture, comprising over 60% of the continental agricultural workforce. And with Agenda 63, there is a special mention of women and youth. And as we are all aware, by 2050, the African population will be about 2.5 billion. There are so many statistics that can highlight the importance of job creation, entrepreneurship, inclusion of women and youth. And we have enough experts today from around the world to share with us insights so that we can understand this topic better. Before we continue, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to let you know that we have simultaneous interpretations in English, French, and Portuguese. Feel free, just go to the globe below your screen, then you click the language you think is suitable for you, depending on your background. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to briefly share with you the agenda of today's session. We start with introductions or opening remarks from Mrs. Laura from COLEAD and Dr. Babafemi Oyewole, the CEO of PAFO. Later on, we have key presentations from Mr. Adeyemo Olusola. He works for AGRA. Then we will have the first panel, which is on youth and women-led agri-food businesses, before we step into the second panel of building support ecosystems with various experts. So please go to the chat box and type your names and the organizations or institutions you do represent so that we can know you quite very well. Feel free to interact as the presentations and discussions go on. Thank you very much. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to invite Mrs. Laura Wauters. She is the head of training department and college. She holds degree in bioengineering with specialization in tropical agronomy. She has very extensive experiences. So Mrs. Laura Wauters, you have the floor. Thank you very much. Over.
Very much. Dear partners, this is a real pleasure for us to welcome you on behalf of COVID for this 27th session of the Innovation Series that is organized in collaboration with PAFO. First of all, allow me to thank all of our partners, the speakers for this session, but also for previous sessions, because they are the reason behind the success of the series. And I'd like to thank all those who are attending today to this session, which is dedicated to a topic which is essential to the agri-food system, how to better provide accompaniment to youth and women so that they can create viable companies to contribute to the economic development of their country and of the production chain. At COLEAD, we've been accompanying for 50 years the various representatives of the horticulture and agri-food sectors. And since 2023, we have made development of skills and capacity building our core business, because we felt, as we worked with companies and with producers, companies, cooperatives, and training institutes, we developed uh, a conviction that the development of a value chain is not only based on access to funding, to market or technology, but it's also based first and foremost on men and women who are behind them. It goes without saying that it's a matter of skill, of capacity to learn, capacity to innovate, and to undertake initiatives throughout their professional trajectory. So since 2023, these skills have been the pillar of our action, and this surfaced after we noticed that most of the time companies experience difficulties in finding people with the right skills that they need. And it is not because training institutes have not trained properly. It's because the sector is evolving so quickly that sometimes it is difficult to adapt rapidly enough. And we see that 20 years later, this is still true. In fact, there is a new dimension to it, as it was already mentioned by our moderator by way of introduction. Africa has the youngest population of the world, and the value chain continue to change and develop rapidly. There are more and more demands on the market, and there is a need to transition, to adapt to climate change, to digitalization, and together with artificial intelligence, this all has to be taken into account. So companies today are really looking for men and women who are able to adapt, to create a value. And it's not just a matter of training more people, but training to acquire the skills that will allow youth and women to build viable companies, to have access to decent jobs, and to accompany the transformation of the agri-food sector. Now, as far as COLEAD is concerned, above and beyond training, we feel that all of these activities also need to be leveraged in order to transform experience on the field into something that can be shared with others. And so we update our experience every day and we make it available to others through specific field of activities, which you can find in our library, but you can also access our e-learn platform, which provides free training which leads to certificates, and this is accessible to all. And you can learn about health safety, production, sustainable production. And in our e-library, we update with more than 600 entries, be them publications, pedagogical resources, and so on. I suppose that most of you are familiar with the Agrinfo platform. Uh, also teaches people to be aware of the new demands of markets, especially the European markets, so that they can adapt more swiftly to these new demands. The idea is also to share experience, your experience within the Agri-Innovator network through this online platform, which together with PAFO will enable and promote exchange amongst companies, organizations of producers, experts, youth, and users, so that innovations and good practice can circulate more rapidly amongst those who need it. Could I ask you to move on to the next slide, please? I would like to highlight two practical cases for today's session. I'm talking about COLEAD's experience. I've told you about the 20 years experience that we have developed in skills and capacity building. But I'd like to highlight also some of the activities that were deployed over the last years. We wanted to strengthen inclusivity of our activities for men and women in our supply of skills development. And we focused mainly on two elements. First of all, a cascading approach with different training paths associating gender issues. The idea is to train new trainers, men and women, so that we can rely on a larger pool of experts, relying on people who were already expert in managing gender issues, but they've learned the new COLEAD approach. And there are also specific training to make this as inclusive as possible. And it's also geared towards heads of companies so that they can integrate the gender dimension and leverage the benefit of being inclusive in all of the practice on an everyday basis. We've developed a path which is cultivating success. This is geared towards companies who are less than 35 years old mainly. So the focus is to attract more and more young people towards the agro-tech sector, which is not necessarily considered as attractive as of yet. And we come to my last slide to conclude. Allow me to give you a brief recap. So the idea is that we've been guided by one main thought, namely that women and youth potential is immense, and it is our collective responsibility to create the conditions that will enable them to transform this potential in real skills, the skills into opportunities, and the opportunities into viable, successful companies providing decent jobs and sustainable development. And we're very proud at COLEAD to be able to provide all that together with PAFO and our partners. I wish you a fruitful meeting, and I hope that this will enable you to learn a lot.
J'espère qu'elle sera riche d'enseignements.
Thank you very, very much, Mrs. Laula. Ladies and gentlemen, help me to congratulate Mrs. Laula. You know how we do it. There are some symbols of love and flowers. Let's please do it. And before I invite the second speaker, I saw a mention from someone. We do have simultaneous interpretation in English, French, and Portuguese. Please go and select the best language that suits you the best. Thank you very much for showing up the achievements of COLEAD, the background, and all the great, great, great work that you do. Please continue. Now, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to welcome Dr. Babafemi Oyewole, the CEO of PAFO, Pan-African Farmers Organizations. Over to you.
Thank you, moderator, for the introduction. Thank you also for the opportunity to be part of this conversation. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone joining us from across Africa and beyond. On behalf of the Pan-African Farmers Organization, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to the 27th edition of the Innovation Series on Empowering Youth and Women in Agri-Food, Bridging Entrepreneurship and Job Creation for Sustainable Impact. I would like to begin by expressing PAFO's sincere appreciation to our valued partner, COLEAD, for the excellent collaboration that has made this event possible. Through our continued partnership, we are creating practical platforms for knowledge exchange, innovation, and capacity development that directly benefit Africa's farmers and agri-food entrepreneurs. Today's discussion could not be more timely. Africa is the youngest continent in the world. By 2050, one out of every 4 people on the planet will be African, with the overwhelming majority being young people. At the same time, women constitute nearly half of Africa's agricultural labor force and are central to food production, processing, marketing, and household nutrition. Yet, despite their enormous contributions, young people and women continue to face significant barriers, such as limited access to finance, land, technology, markets, quality training, business development services, and supportive policies, which continue to constrain their ability to successfully develop enterprises and create sustainable employment. The future of African agriculture, therefore, depends not only on increasing production, but on making agri-food systems attractive, profitable, innovative, and inclusive, particularly to African youth and women. Agriculture must no longer be viewed merely as a means of subsistence. It must become a dynamic business sector capable of generating wealth, creating decent jobs, fostering innovation, and driving economic transformation across our continent. This is precisely why today's webinar is so important. We are gathered to explore practical pathways that connect entrepreneurship with employment creation. We seek to identify solutions that enable youth and women to move beyond being participants in agriculture to becoming business leaders, employers, innovators, investors, and drivers of resilient food systems. At PAFO, we firmly believe that empowering youth and women is not simply a social objective. It is an economic necessity and a strategic investment in Africa's future. Through our continental programs, including the Empowering Young Agricultural Producers, EYPA initiative, our Young Women Leaders Program, our work on access to finance, digital agriculture, climate resilience, value chain development, and institutional strengthening of farmers' organizations, PAFO continues to advocate for policies and investments that place young people and women at the center of agri-food transformation. Farmers' organizations themselves have a critical role to play. They provide young entrepreneurs and women with access to collective markets, financial services, technical support, digital innovation, mentoring, advocacy, and stronger bargaining power. They create ecosystems where entrepreneurship can flourish while ensuring that no one is left behind. However, no single institution can achieve this transformation alone. Success requires strong partnerships among governments, development partners, financial institutions, research organizations, educational institutions, the private sector, and farmers' organizations. It requires innovative financing models, enabling policy environments, investment in skills development, digital technologies, and greater recognition of agriculture as a viable career path for Africa's youth. Today, distinguished speakers bring a wealth of experience from different sectors, and I encourage all participants to actively engage, ask questions, share experiences, and identify opportunities for collaboration that extend beyond today's event. Let this webinar not be merely another conversation. Let it serve as a catalyst for practical action, stronger partnerships, innovative solutions, and concrete commitment that will expand entrepreneurship opportunities and create decent jobs for millions of young people and women across Africa. As PAFO, we reaffirm our commitment to working alongside COLEAD and all our partners to build inclusive, competitive, sustainable, and resilient agri-food system that truly serve Africa's farmers and contribute to the aspirations of Agenda 2063 and the CADEP Kampala Declaration. I thank you all for your participation and wish us a highly productive and inspiring webinar. Thank you for your attention, and I yield back to the moderator.
Thank you very, very much, Dr. Babafemi Oyewole, the CEO of PAFO. You know how we do it, how we show love, how we congratulate these very insightful comments. I liked the point, empowering youth and women, a strategic investment for the future. Without youth, without women, without their empowerment and investing in their capacities, there is no way we can ensure the future. Thank you very much, Doctor, for the very, very important remarks. And for those who join now, right now, let me remind you that we are on the webinar, Empowering Youth and Women in Agri-Food, Bridging Entrepreneurship and Job Creation for Sustainable Impact. So that's the elephant in the room. That's the point we are discussing about today. So, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to invite the next speaker, but there is a slight changes on the agenda because one of the speakers has a flight. So I would love to have these little changes, then invite Mrs. Chiamaka Ndukwu, the CEO of AgroHive. Apologies, Mr. Adeyemo, you'll be the next speaker, just to make sure that also the speaker gets a chance to speak before she flies. So, Mrs. Chiamaka, very quickly, get the floor and let us know what you do. Chiamaka is the CEO of AgroHive. Over to you.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you are joining. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm really, really grateful and appreciative of the opportunity to join the panelists for today's conversation. My name is Chiamaka Ndukwu, and I am an agricultural development professional, and I just completed my master's degree in agricultural education and communication at the University of Florida. And over the past 8 years, I've been running AgroHive, which is a skills development organization for the agricultural industry in Africa. And over the past 7 years, we've been trying to understand why a lot of agricultural graduates and women struggle with getting opportunities within the agricultural sector in Africa. And when we say opportunities, we know that a lot of graduates eventually find jobs, but oftentimes majority are underemployed. They have jobs that pays them less than the years of investment in their education. And that is why today's conversation is really important to me. Can everyone hear me? I see that someone said there is a problem with the sound. Can everyone hear me?
I can hear you quite well.
Okay. So, okay. So, like I was saying, in the agricultural sector, it's not like we are not employed, but the problem is that oftentimes we're underemployed, mostly because of the way the industry is structured, mostly because a lot of agricultural graduates go to school, but they lack some skills that employers are really looking for. We have the technical skills, but oftentimes we lack the non-technical skills, like the soft skills, the leadership skills, and other skills that makes it very critical to perform well at an agribusiness. And then there is also a problem of people graduating, especially women graduating, but facing challenges with securing like really good sustainable employment opportunities that are not like the traditional farming roles. And then there is also this urgency for us to begin to change our curricula and our learning frameworks within the agricultural industry to be able to equip agricultural graduates and women with the right skills, the right competencies that employers, not just in Africa, but out of the continent, are also interested in hiring. And I know the question would be, is the problem really a problem of, is the problem just the problem of agricultural youths, or is the problem really the problem of the women in the agricultural industry? No, it's not really a problem of youths. The problem is really, can you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. The problem is really not just the problem of youths or women in agriculture. There are so many barriers that limits young people and women from getting the right employability competencies or the right skills. And oftentimes these barriers are not within our control. We have barriers such as the limited access to finance and startup capital for those who want to venture into their own businesses and begin to employ others, the struggle with having access to startup capital or finance. There is also weak employability and entrepreneurship skills, curriculum development, and also policies that affect the ability of youths and women to develop the skills. And then when we look at the gender-based constraints, we see that women always have challenges, especially for those who want to start a business. They have challenges with mobility, assessing land resources, assessing resources, and also cultural norms within their communities that may impact their ability to even start businesses or get employment or employ others. Then there's also the limited exposure to real agri-food workplaces. And when I say this, I'm saying this as an agricultural graduate from Nigeria and as a business owner and someone that has also worked professionally. So I've worked in the traditional agricultural farm setting, I've worked for development organizations, and I've also started my own business. And I can tell you for certain that over 70% of agricultural graduates and women do not have the opportunity to work beyond just a farm setting. And we need to start creating opportunities. There needs to be opportunities for young people and women to experience what work is really. Then there is also this fragmented market linkages and weak business support systems for both youths and women. Now, when we look at how these were some of the problems that we saw at AgroHive in 2017 when we founded the organization. We saw that youth and women were not getting opportunities, and we decided to launch an organization that helps upskill agricultural graduates with non-traditional skills and then connect them to hiring employers. The next slide, please. Thank you. So at AgroHive, over the past years, what we've done is to build a pipeline of skilled agricultural workforce in Africa by embedding experiential learning frameworks in our agricultural upskilling programs. So these experiential learning frameworks include not just training them digitally, but also giving them assessments to do after each training, placing them on internships and team projects to have them practice some of these non-traditional skills that we train them on that otherwise they wouldn't learn in the universities or in a standard agricultural platform or incubation hub. And then we offer career coaching sessions through our AP career opportunities where young people meet experts within the field and then get to learn from them.
Excuse me, Chiamaka, just a few minutes ahead.
Okay, thank you. The next slide, please. And so far, we've seen results from our approach. We've seen that participants who are engaged in the program have reported learning more skills and having access to better opportunities after graduating from the program. And then we see agricultural businesses who are also sharing how those participants who go through the full range of our programs perform better than those who do not. The next slide. And with our results so far, we can tell you that through this, we can say that Africa can implement some scalable solutions. And some of the scalable solutions that we on this call can begin to embed in our programs is one, to see how we can integrate experiential learning in university curricula. Here in the United States, it is very easy to do that, but in Africa, it's something that we should be intentional about. We need to build agri-food entrepreneurship incubators for youth and women. We have a few existing, but we need to be more intentional to build it, not just for established or high-level startups, but for people that are starting up. Just like what COLEAD is doing, COLEAD and PAFO is doing. We need to strengthen digital platforms for training and market access. Also, we need to incentivize agri-food businesses to host interns, and because when we have a lot of agri-businesses signing up to host interns, we give these young people and women opportunities to develop the needed skills for employability or even to start their own businesses. And more importantly, I think we should learn to align training with employer needs. And finally, what will be our call to action on this call for all of us that have agribusinesses and, own organizations or lead organizations? I think the first is to partner with youth-led agri-food organizations to implement some of these programs, because oftentimes it is harder for young people to get partners, especially those who want to, do something within the sector. It is very hard for them to partner with established organizations. So if we can start with that, we can make it easier. We can invest in experiential learning and entrepreneurship programs. We can support women, cooperatives, and agri-food SMEs, either through coaching, through investments. We can create regional internship pipelines within Africa, and it doesn't have to be mandatorily within the country. Maybe in Nigeria or Ghana, there is an opportunity to, collaborate across countries to help these young people develop stronger skill sets. And then we can strengthen cross-country agri-food job creation initiatives like I just mentioned. Thank you so much, and I'm happy to get any questions you may have for me.
Thank you very, very much, Mrs. Chiamaka Ndukwu, for the brilliant presentation with scalable solutions. I liked the way to not only focusing on the problems, but also finding out what can be done, what are the doable things, and the call to actions. I think that's very, very, very inspiring to many cases, not only in Nigeria, but also across Africa. So thank you very much. I'm not sure whether we can get the questions right now, but people can go in the chat, write questions. We have a specific time for Q&A interactive session. So if you will stay with us till the end, or probably we can collect some questions, then share with you. Now, allow me to welcome Mr. Adeyemo Olusola from AGRA. He was supposed to do a keynote presentation, and still he is going to deliver the keynote presentation, and kindly try to turn around 10 minutes, because we have quite a number of good experts, so that we can make sure that we leave no one behind. Over to you, Mr. Olusola.
Thank you very much. We just want to check and confirm that you can see my slide at the other end as I move ahead with the presentation. Can you just confirm?
Sure, I confirm.
Thank you so very much. So I'll try to be quite fast with this, seeing that we are a bit behind on time. But let me start by really appreciating PAFO and COLEAD for this invitation and for the opportunity to share with the group, especially the young people and the women on this call. In terms of this topic we're talking about today, empowering youth and women. How do we bridge the entrepreneurship and job creation gap for sustainable impact? Really thank you for the opportunity. So just moving on ahead, let me just see that this is moving. Okay. So a lot has been said about the importance of this conversation we are having today. Why it's important to talk about youth and women and their participation in the food system and the opportunities that abound within the sector. So Africa is quite growing fast, and we have a youth population that by 2030 will be reaching about 375 million. And a lot of this will be entering into the workforce. So in fact, the key question we need to be asking is what jobs are on ground for these young people, which is also part of the biggest concern for a lot of donor organizations and part of their intent in working with organizations like PAFO and other development organizations to say this is a problem that is potentially looming. How can we ensure that we anticipate and we begin to solve it ahead of time? So agriculture itself currently employs over 60% of the continent's labor force and contributes 23% of the GDP. So the gap between the potential and the economic opportunity is urgent, much more than before. With 1 in 3 young Africans unemployed at the moment or underemployed, and women also comprising about 60 to 80% of those producing the foods that we eat, yet they own less than 20% of the farmlands. And the agri-food sector sits at a critical crossroad. The challenge is massive, and we need to respond to that. We have an opportunity, it's a generational one. So the truth is that with every problem, there is an opportunity. We don't necessarily see gaps as things that cannot be addressed. At the moment, over 60% of African youth are engaged in agriculture. And part of the key challenges that we see they are facing, I think some of those have been highlighted by the CEO of AgroHive, but they are real challenges that we all need to think through and address. We talk about land access, lack of finance, which is a big one, and also very limited linkages to markets. When we talk about markets, it's not just that, oh, where are the markets, but even some of the requirements for entering into the markets and engaging with the markets. What is required for those things like certification, things like quality standards, and how we guide our young people on all these, and also enable them to access the right kind of certificates required to participate both in some local and international markets. Those are part of the barriers we are talking about. So these kind of barriers keep them trapped in small farming, subsistence farming rather than enterprises. Also, for our women, as I've said earlier on, as we all know, women contribute massively to what we see in production in Africa, 80% of that, but they are not well fully represented in agri-food value chains, especially at leadership level and when it comes to business and opportunities at the entrepreneurial level. I'm happy we are beginning to see a change in that gradually. Happy to see the CEO of AgroHive, and we have some women doing fantastic things. AGRA itself has a whole program that we call Value for Her, which is primarily targeting women entrepreneurs, enabling their businesses and seeing them take leadership role. Those are part of the things we are doing. I might not have so much time to talk on all of them, but at least I will try to highlight 1 or 2 as we go along the way. So in my own experience working with AGRA, across different countries in the continent, and also some of the other academic studies I've been involved in, I think I would just like to quickly highlight 3 lessons as I begin to tie this presentation together and how those lessons could be of benefit to this group and everyone on the call. Let me remove this video. I think it's distracting. So the very first one I will draw from our YPARD program. So YPARD means Youth Employment in Agri-Food, and in youth employment for agri-food in Africa. And what we've seen demonstrated in that program is that sustainable impact actually requires linking 3 key pillars. We need to develop skills for young people. We need to make sure that they are able to access finance. And we also need to make sure they are connected to the markets. And all these 3 have to work within a policy environment that is favorable both for youth and women. I think that needs to sink in. And anyone that is working with young people, you need to critically think about these 3 as much as possible. So there are all these connected opportunities. When we equip youth and women with practical skills, they can engage at entrepreneurial level. When we provide the finances required either at the micro level, grant level, blended finance, innovative finances, all these are also required for them to participate. Then the markets become very, very important. We need to know what the market needs, what the consumers are demanding, and that feeds into what is being produced, and also the criteria to engage at different levels, at different markets, and how different platforms can facilitate the participation of young people in the whole value chain as much as possible. Let me give an example from one of our young people on the FR program. I'm just using an hypothetical name now, but for Albertine, just about 23 years old. She had been unemployed for a while and living in a rural community with very limited prospects. So after joining the FR program, one of the first things she, engaged with on was learning about climate smart farming techniques and also being connected to the right farmer group or cooperative network. So what we see is that within a 2-year period, since we started this program, she's been able to grow a smallholder operation into a thriving vegetable enterprise. And beyond just our being able to engage, we begin to see a situation whereby she and other young people are able to begin to employ other young women. And this for us is where entrepreneurship comes in. So it's not just about primary production or an individual. We need to start thinking about how can young people create value or create businesses that can then engage or employ other young people. That is what will enable us to bridge that unemployment or underemployment gap that we spoke about at the beginning. And Albertine is a good example. So what she told us was that, I didn't just learn to farm, I learned to lead, I learned to plan, I learned to believe that Agrifood could be my future as much as possible. So she's currently an agripreneur and she's also a mentor at the same time. The second lesson is about ensuring that we look at the ecosystem. Any
Excuse
tribe
me,
in agri-food.
Adeyemo,
Yep.
about 3 minutes.
Oh, okay. That's quite short.
Yeah.
Okay. So any thriving agri-food economy is not built by isolated actors. It requires interconnected pillars that work in concert. So let's think about who are the people who are supplying the resources or the inputs required, who are the producers, who are the processors, and what do the market linkage, what does that look like? So we need to think about the agri system as interconnected agro system, not isolated, not in silo, but in a systemic way. So when we think of it like that, we are able to think better about how job is created across different value chains at different levels. What is needed? Where is it? Service production that is needed. We begin to think critically through all those. Let me give an example, and maybe AGRA spoke a bit about this. So people are thinking currently, even for things like extension, on how can we innovate? How can we begin to use digital platforms, peer-to-peer learning? How can private sectors get involved in agribusiness and facilitate productivity and market access and finance for farmers, especially young people and women? So those are the kind of ecosystem thinking that we are talking about. The last and final lesson I would like to highlight is the critical and specific role that farmer organizations need to play in all this. So what we begin to see, and also the direction we as AGRA are beginning to work with farm organizations. I like what Dr. Babafemi said the other time, speaking about different things going on, including institutional capacity building. So farmer organizations are now evolving beyond, just traditional cooperatives or representatives of farmers. We are talking about a situation whereby we're seeing pooling of resources, trying to help negotiate better market prices, integrating youth and women into leadership, and, farmer organizations becoming engines of transformation and engagement for youth and women, driving those ecosystem roles that we talk about. And those are the kind of activities that begin to endear young people and women to farmer organizations. When I begin to see that by being a part of a farmer organization, I have access to international markets, I have access to different opportunities, then it becomes something I would love to do. We'll try to share these slides with participants just because of time, but later on in the seminar, please do take care of any take note of any question you might have. I will be happy to address those. But this is a call to all of us to work together, representatives of government on the call to let's build the ecosystem that will facilitate the participation of youth and women. Thank you very much, moderator, and look forward to the questions that will come
Thank you
further.
very much. And again, apologies because, we need to manage the limited time we have by now. But excellent and fantastic presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, help me to congratulate Mr. Olusola Adeyemo for the brilliant presentation. You know how we do it. And I liked so many things, but among them is that where there is a challenge, there is always opportunity. And there are so many opportunities around. One of the opportunities is a project that AGRA is doing, is implementing with PAFO and farmer organizations, among many other opportunities. So let's explore these opportunities around Africa, around the globe. So thank you very much. We get back to you for questions. I have seen quite a number of questions in the chat box. Please bear with me, wait a few minutes where we have a debate session, an interactive session very soon, because we still have a few other speakers. And those who join us now, let me remind you that this webinar theme is empowering youth and women in agri-food, bridging entrepreneurship and job creation for sustainable impact. That's the elephant in the room. That's the point, a critical point we are underlining and squaring by now. So allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to invite Mr. Akejo Gordon Victor. He's the CEO of Gordon Agriculture Organization from Uganda. We had a case study from Nigeria. Now let's hear from East Africa, Uganda. What are the solutions? What are the initiatives on the ground as we are talking about women and youth? Over to you, Mr. Akejo. Please be brief. Let's turn around 10 minutes max. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bafa and the colleague for this opportunity. It's really a pleasure to interact and to share what we're doing in Uganda. And I'm requesting whether you could share my slide. Am I audible enough?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Okay. Are you able to share my slide, please?
Okay. Ahoefa, please share the slides. And Akejo, if you don't mind, if the network is good, turn on your camera so that people can also see you as well. But if the network is not stable, yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. As I wait for my slide to be shared, my name is Akejo Gordon Victor, and I'm a Forum alumni. And brief a bit on my background is I studied agricultural education and extension from Egerton University, where that was in 2020. But on coming back, we look at the opportunity that were existing in the rural area in northern Uganda, where we were looking at how do we build opportunity, how do we create job for the young people and women in rural areas. We started Gordon's Agricultural Organization, where we are looking at creating solution in terms of agriculture activities. And here is what we do. And starting, maybe you go to the next slide. Gordon's Agricultural Organization provide actually bundle agricultural solution that is able to really cater for the need of the young people, the women, and the general farmer in the rural areas. When you look at the demand of the young people currently, you find that they're looking at what is available opportunity that they could involve in agriculture. But we look at agriculture in terms of farming, ranging from maybe horticulture, ranging from a number of crops that they're growing. But also the key limit was actually access to input. That right now we are really bridging this gap. We are able to supply this input to the youth and women within the rural areas. And we are using a unique model where we are calling the last mile delivery acceleration model, where we work with the out of school youth within the rural community. And these are mainly women and youth who have either completed their universities, who have completed their technical institution, who have maybe stopped in certain level of education, and they're able to really get access to input. They're able to be involved within the supply chain and earn from what they're doing. We are also looking at agribusiness skills and entrepreneurship training. We have been able to work with a number of youth, whether you're doing farming, where we train you on different practices that you need to really come up with the best production. Then also entrepreneurship training, where we look at the different financial literacy, farming record, how to keep. So this has really been something that is transformative. The young people and the women are really able to adopt. Then we look at the market. Since they are now having input access, they're able to produce. We really see that we are able to make sure that they have ready market for the product that they're really producing. We look at the risk factor, like the climate smart production and irrigation support, then also post-harvest handling. So with all this and the model that we are doing, we have been able to work with these around 38,000 farmers, and most of these are actually 70% are youth. Then we have been able to work with women who are running micro enterprises within the rural areas. That is 250 for women who are really doing tangible businesses. And when you see the value they're creating in the rural areas, they're dealing in different agricultural products, which starts from maybe the food that they're selling from different, they're able to create value in the rural economy. And also, we are able to create work opportunity for almost 10,000 youth in the rural communities. When you look at agricultural value chains, you realize that there are a number of opportunities that exist. For instance, we have the model we are calling the community agricultural promoters. These are young people who are trained to deliver extension services using the digital platform. They're able to go on ground, set demonstration, and they're able to do also a number of bulking on ground. So these people have been trained to really provide these services, and they're earning from what they're doing. And when you look at the agricultural value chain, you find that there's a lot of gaps in the rural areas. And when you look at the women are the most affected, the youth are the most affected. But then the skills we are giving them, the input they're getting, the market for their produce, and also the opportunity that they have, they are able to really do a lot in the value chains. All this we consider actually, there are 70% youth in our implementation. Go to the next slide, please. So despite that, we also had a number of what do we really see as, please go to the next slide. There are a number of challenges that the young people also face. And when you look at most of the speakers were saying, there's access to finance. But how did we try to cover this out? We introduced a number of solutions where we're talking of the input credit to these youth and women because they're already in groups. We have also introduced a small amount of access to finance where the women whom you are seeing 254 are able to access finance to do a number of activities. And this has really enabled them to create a lot of impact in the community. Then also we have skills and capacity gaps. Most of the youth have the farming experience, but then when you look at the skills that they need, most of the people are not able to give. But that's what we have been able to give them. They're able to do a number of farming activities. They're able to grow crop that they're able to improve at least a bit in terms of yield and income that they're earning. We look at the market. We have already ready-made market. We have made, for example, youth who are into horticulture. We have organization that is able to take off their product. And that is what most people want. They want to grow when they already have ready-made market. So the model we designed what we're calling a bundle solution that is able to really cater for the general need, a bundle solution that is able to cater for one solution, the problem for the youth, considering from production up to the market. Then also what we did was intentional is that we did this inclusion. Most people are doing inclusion, they just think about it after sometimes, but we're able to design this in a way that is able to really help the young people and the youth, the women, to really fit into the value chain in agriculture. The next slide, please.
Excuse me, you have about 3 to 4 minutes.
The next slide. We have been able to get really support from a number of organizations, which included Roof Forum, MasterCard Foundation, AFAS. So why am I mentioning this? Because the young people, they don't just succeed, they don't just go into business, they need a number of training, they need a number of mentorship, and also as well as funding. But all this, you can't get funding when you're not being mentored, when you're not being trained. Then also networking and fellowship, and partnership and market linkages. So you find the next slide, you find that most of these, when the young people are able to get this, they're able really to fit within agricultural value chain. So we saw that For the youth to be really successful, we need to bundle the offer that we are giving to them. That's why you see our solution is not only one, we are able to bundle one and another that is able to bring productivity. Then also we need to include women and youth by design, not just by default or after starting to implement something. Then also we look at scaling. We need to also aim at enabling these youth to scale what they're doing, not just to support their family, but to support the overall community. I therefore thank you all for this opportunity and looking forward to more of this engagement and partnership with you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. A very big round of applause to Mr. Akejo Gordon for the presentation. You can see those are good and inspiring initiatives from the ground. We had cases from Nigeria. We had cases. Now we get the experiences from Uganda. I mean, those are practices, are things that can be doable and scalable in so many other parts of the world. So thank you very much for these good initiatives and the work you do and continue. We get back to you again. Let me, before we go to the second panel, let me invite Mrs. Fatoumatta Joof. She is Director of Programs of the Woman Boss in Gambia. We had cases from Nigeria, Uganda. Now let's go to Gambia and hear how women and youth are being supported before we jump in to the second topic. Over to you, Mrs. Fatoumatta. Very brief, 10 minutes maximum.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for giving me the platform today to come and talk about the experiences of Gambian people in the agri-food business. Like you said, representing the Woman Boss with over 5 years of experience working in the development sector in the agri-food business. Would you like me to share the presentation that I have quickly to go over it with one? Okay, all right. Okay, so if there's one thing that I have experience on or something that I've noticed while I've worked in the development sector for the past 5 years, I'm having problem sharing this Zoom, okay.
Okay,
all right, I'm unable to share my screen right now.
Okay.
I don't know if Afua can share it from her end. I already shared it with her. But if not, I can go ahead without sharing the presentation.
Please go ahead because Ahoefa is sharing the screen, this presentation.
All right, okay. So like I was saying, if there's something that I noted or recognize in the development sector, especially in agri-food businesses with young people.
Hello. Fatoumatta, Mrs. Fatoumatta, I think we lost you.
Is it okay if I turn the video on because I think the internet is not really stable?
Yeah, please, please, turn the video off. Yeah, please,
Okay, so sorry about that. Like I was saying, I think I want to take us all back to the roots of where I believe the problem is when it comes to sustainability, especially when it comes to young people and women involved. We know the demographic is always at the sign of inaccessibility, inequalities, and so on and so forth. When it comes to lower basic schools, the primary schools that we go to, the nursery schools, agriculture is always brought about like as an afterthought, as a subject that you can pick or choose, subject that you can add to the curriculum just to pass, to have enough subjects to have in your final documents. So this is where I think the problem is. We know how important agriculture is. We know the contribution that it does to the national development, global development. I think this is where the narrative has to shift. This is where the conversation needs to be had. We need to prioritize agriculture and not have it as a survival tool, not have it as a problem that we need to solve, because we probably think it's a poor man's avenue, is a poor man's system that we need to amplify. The conversation needs to be around how do we make agriculture, farming, businesses, especially entrepreneurship, a main topic of acquiring when it comes to education. This is where education needs to start. And I believe not when people have grown into it and using it as a survival tool or survival method. Setting the scene, we see the opportunities and the realities that we have. I just wanted to give a background on why I have some of these bullet points. And going through it, I can see that youth and women in agri-food matter, because obviously we know the critical role they play in transforming agri-food systems. We know that young women, youth are the innovators when it comes to development. That is a conversation or a topic that is not new to no one, but lack of opportunities and the challenges that we see is like a cycle that keeps on continuing, So I believe it's a robust shift that we need to have when it comes to providing solutions, putting the conversations on the table on how to turn the direction of funding, how to make funding accessible, and being intentional about the key things that we are trying to fund when it comes to entrepreneurship, and especially young people, women in agri-food businesses. We know that the opportunity presents potential for job creation. However, there are so many gender-specific barriers. I'm a gender enthusiast, a gender advocate, and something that I've noticed in all development sectors is how there are always gender-specific barriers. But when it comes to agri-food or entrepreneurship businesses, we see the unique presentation of how, oh, these are young women, or these are women, or these are young people that are in this sector. It's not really a priority for funding to go into these sectors, because most of the time they think that it's not going to be sustainable, or the longevity in some of these entrepreneurs or people that are in this sector, because women, they're going to go back into family, bearing children, taking care of the home, young people. They're not really let's say they're not really ambitious. So sometimes we miss these fundings because of some of the social norms that we have that are surrounding women and young people. And we realize where we are now because of some of the individual opinions we have of each other. Now, last bullet point, investment in youth and women drives inclusive and sustainable economic growth. That, as well as all the other 2 bullet points, we know how critical it is for the development that we're seeking, especially in the agri-food business and entrepreneurship, how important they are. But the reality, again, like I said, weak networks, limited business development support, and most of the time information gaps from especially some of the things that I've mentioned before. If I can go to the next slide, please. Some of the lessons learned, I believe I've mentioned in the earlier statements that I've given, but we've seen insights from digital accelerator and entrepreneurship programs. We realize that training alone is not enough. From the 90 days program that we usually have with the Woman Boss part of our programs, we realize that it goes beyond the trainings, and most of the time fundings do not provide monitoring and evaluation capacity funding for institutions to continue with the work that they're doing. And not only that, sometimes you would think it's limited to that, but also institutions need capacity increasement as well, because in order for the staff or the members of the institution to continue with engaging with entrepreneurs, it takes a lot of resources. And sometimes it's if these conversations are brought in the conversations that we have, we realize that we realize that some of these conversations are hard to have because of the social communities that we have, how it's not always the case for institutions to request for resource funding or institutional capacity funding, because they believe that institutions should be equipped enough. But sometimes funding miss these parts. They miss the parts where staff and organizations should be heavily equipped to be able to follow through with the entrepreneurs that they have been engaging with for sustainable impact. We also realize that it comes with a mindset, the leadership that comes, the resilience and the continuous learning. These are all critical growth enablers. But we know that beyond the training, we need long-term hands-on support accessible at different stages of growth.
Excuse me, Fatoumatta, about 3 to 4 minutes, please.
Okay, can I have the next slide? Okay, so we realize that digital skills are now essential for agri-food business to compete and grow. To bridge the entrepreneurship and employment, we are helping agripreneurs grow from self-employment to businesses that create jobs, tools for productivity, in this case, strengthening value chains to generate more stable and better pay attractive jobs. I think it has to go hand in hand if we are giving e-commerce platforms, data, and AI as opportunities for agripreneurs. There also needs to be heavy technical business and digital soft skills for entrepreneurs and job seekers alike. It needs to be intentional in how we frame training methods and so on and so forth, to also cater for the people that are illiterate and also not literate, but in the case where accessibility meets every individual in the way that they have the capacity to receive the information that we're given. Also, last but not the least, bridging the digital divide for women and youth in rural and peri-urban areas to connect these people to make sure that we enhance training to real opportunities across agri-food value chains. Next slide, please. Okay, so the way forward, I'm calling on all government officials, development partners, private sector to strengthen policies, to go back to our drawing boards, to make sure that funding and marketing systems are in line with the problems that are arising, and intentionally catering to the problems that are arising to the people that need it the most. I believe that when these policies are being made, we need to call on the entrepreneurs, the people in agri-food businesses, the young people, the youth, young boys, young girls, women, to make sure that they're in these rooms when these policies are being, to go to have these conversations with them, to make sure that they get feedback from them and make it very intentional that these policies, the policies are catering to them, and they're making sense in the way that the systems are created. I believe my time is up. Thank you, everyone, for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Fatoumatta Joof, Director of Programs from Woman Boss, for excellent presentation with practical experiences and insights. I liked so many, but among others, that training alone is not enough. There are trainings, there are skills, there are knowledge women, youth get from the schools, from the trainings, from everywhere. But if they don't put into practice these skills, these trainings, these knowledges, we end up having no exact impact. So that's very good. And we took note of excellent suggestions to governments, private sector. I mean, it's very, very inspiring. Please give her flowers. I know she likes flowers. Give her flowers. And allow me, before we go to interactive session, ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you one thing. Let's hear from two more speakers, experts, because the first part was more on practical experiences across entrepreneurship and employment pathways. You had the cases from Nigeria, from Uganda. We come to hear from Gambia experiences. Now, we need a little bit to understand how we can build support ecosystems for inclusive growth, strengthening skills, entrepreneurship, and quality employment. We have two experts. One is Mrs. Genna Tesdall. She is the Director of Young Professionals for Agriculture Development. Mrs. Genna, please, you have the floor for about 10 minutes max. Over to you.
Perfect. Thank you so very much. I assume that you can see my screen, and if you are unable to, that you would kindly interrupt me. As I was so kindly introduced, my name is Genna Tesdall, and I have the great honor and privilege of being the director of the youth network YPARD, Young Professionals for Agricultural Development. We are a youth network created by young people for young people around the age of 35 and under all around the world. And we really want to tell you about what we believe are the barriers to youth and also some examples that we implement around the world to really turn those barriers into opportunities. And I think that's been a red thread throughout this entire webinar, is that every barrier is a potential opportunity. First, I wanted to start out with maybe what is seemingly a simple contextual framing. And it is, what is youth anyways? You may have noticed that I said that we focus on young people around about the age of 35 or under. There is no universal definition of young people, and that is also one of the inherent challenges about understanding young people and our challenges. The UN defines young people as 18 to 24 years of age in many data sets that they collect. But we see the African Union, for example, often defining youth as under 35 years of age, but some countries even include up to 40 years of age. We know from the high-level panel of experts report prepared for the Committee on World Food Security that actually youth is a conceptual definition, is a relational definition, and it's about our position in intergenerational relations along the life course. This is really important to keep in mind. It's really about our relationship to positions of power and to our opportunities. We've heard a lot from the other speakers about why young people are so important. All around the world, of course, we're 16% of the global population. And we've heard so many times about how young people are an even larger part of the population in Africa. Young people are so important because we're influencing diet decisions. We're also a significant demographic of displaced persons. And we're also organizing in social movements and making change happen. Now, you'll hear many youth activists say this at the moment, that we are not the leaders of tomorrow, but we are the leaders of today. And that goes along with two other myths that I would like to debunk when talking about barriers and opportunities for young people. We often hear the statistic thrown around a lot that the average age of farmers in low and middle income countries is 60 years of age. This is all about how you define a farmer. And when looking more closely, IFAD actually found that the average age of people engaged in farming is 34. This higher number was really coming from heads of household, landowners, those who are making the farming decisions. So this is really about all individuals spending time on the farm. And this is really, really interesting because it goes back to what some of our other speakers were saying, I believe, and our next myth, which is that the main challenge to youth is unemployment. And this is why they're not actually getting into agriculture. But actually, we find that the International Labor Organization, the ILO, examined this. And the main challenge to youth in the labor market is actually underemployment. So meaning that young people are not actually employed up to our full skills, up to our full capacity, up to our full time that we could. And that these jobs are low paying, they're precarious, and they're not decent. So this is a major driver of inequality globally, inequality between generations. And this is really one of the keys of why young people aren't staying in agriculture, even though we actually are already engaged. We really want to see a transformation of young people from this, what we would categorize as non-participation in Roger Hart's ladder of participation, to really empowering and transforming young people. So having young people actually have decision-making power in the food system so that we can also do things the way that we see fit, and that we also have the chance to innovate, to make our own mistakes, and also to have our own successes, of course. This is a major driver of innovation and a feeling that you have agency in the system. So what is YPARD and where do we come into this picture? Well, we're an international network created by young professionals in agriculture for young professionals in agriculture. From top to bottom, we are created by young people. So from our volunteers, our members, all the way up to our board, we are young people who are engaged in all different types of activities in the agri-food system. We're operating at local, national, regional, and global levels, of course. We reach over 33,000 young people in 65 different countries, and our members are anyone who works in food and agriculture or who is interested in it. We're farmers, we're students, we're agripreneurs, teachers, policy specialists, community leaders, we're unemployed people, we're people who are in part-time gigs, we are people who are passionate about making a difference in our societies through food and agriculture. And that's what I want to give us as food for thought today for anyone who is here who would like to be a member of YPARD, who would like to collaborate with YPARD as some of these other organizations. We operate in three main areas: capacity building, peer-to-peer forums, and advocacy. We believe, of course, that capacity building is key, especially for young people, but we don't want to stay there, because in our last speaker emphasized, capacity building is not enough, and that's usually where programs for young people stop. We want peer-to-peer forums as well. We create these to create a safe space to share knowledge and experience, and also, of course, to connect us with international experts. And then we also advocate internationally for engaging young voices in policy discussions and policy platforms all around the world. We have YPARD chapters in many different countries, in over 65 different countries. This helps young people organize ourselves, connect with other folks who are doing similar things, and we feature our work in these chapters through articles, through webinars, prize nominations, conference participation, you name it, probably a YPARD chapter somewhere is doing it. A great example is YPARD Uganda, who is doing farm day outs, for example, where we go to visit farms and see what they're doing there to build peer-to-peer, but also intergenerational exchange, but also advocating for policy at the national level. So there's advocacy done for a national food safety law, for example, and also Uganda's aflatoxin strategy in 2024. Also, supporting community seed banks are something that YPARD Uganda has chosen as a priority for their work. We also have a very active chapter in YPARD Kenya that has been working with school gardens, with agroecology and agripreneurship, with female leadership, of course. And YPARD Tanzania has also been working on biofertilizer production in the framework of agroecology, also been advocating for policy at the Tanzania Agriculture Budget Dialogue, and even participating in international networks that are linked to the Tanzania Agroecology Hub.
Excuse me, Genna.
Yes, please.
About 3 to 4 minutes, please.
Perfect. Yes, I have the timer going next to me as well. Thank you for allowing me to keep time as well. Thank you. So if you would like to work together with us, or you would like to take these formats into your own interpretation, of course, we encourage you to host YPARD cafes or cafe-style formats and agroecology trainings between young people and experts. We encourage you to encourage young people to take the reins into our own hands to address community needs, sharpening your soft and hard skills by learning by doing, but then also connecting to expert organizations around the world. We also have agripreneurship incubators, and we'd love to iterate some of those and work together with any of you to make those a reality in the future, like the ones that we've done in the past. And of course, if you're working on policy advocacy, we would love to work with you on this as well. This is really key for young people, even who aren't policy wonks, to develop civic engagement skills and to understand the process of engaging in policy and policy advocacy at local, national, and global levels. And of course, we always encourage you as organizations to create youth engagement strategies. This is something that we can help you do if you're very interested in this, and something that creates then a strong institutional framework for engaging young people. In summary, work together with young people to build youth-led youth networks, work together with young people for education and coaching. 3, invest in youth-led innovations. We've heard this also from several of the previous speakers. 4, scale-proven solutions led by young people around diverse regions. And 5, of course, always amplify youth voices in agricultural policy and program design and implementation. And with that, that's the presentation that I have with you today. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you for remembering that all challenges for young people can be turned into opportunities. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Genna Tesdall, for an excellent and inspiring presentation. I mean, I can't, you talked about so many inspiring things, but I liked youth is more fluid than other age groups, and reminding us that 16% of the global population is actually youth, meaning the reason why we are here discussing about women and youth. So thank you very much for the presentations we have had of your achievements, your work in Uganda, Kenya, everywhere. I hope everyone here has at least understood where and how they can partner with your organization. Please stay with us. We have an interactive session very soon. Allow me, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome the last speaker, last but not least. She is Dr. Mathabo Tsepa. She is a very high profile because she has been representing Lesotho to various countries as a high commissioner in Canada, Bahamas, Barbados, Jamaica, and so many others. So she has a very strong experiences, knowledge that she can share with us today. Your Excellency, Dr. Mathabo, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, moderator. First of all, am I audible?
Yes, please. Yes, we can hear you well. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. There are, in fact, many ways by which the farmer organizations can become stronger platforms for youth and women entrepreneurship, employment, and leadership. But today, I would focus on 3. Even among the 3, I will pick up one that I will run through with it to provide a practical example that our farmer organizations that are gathered here today can take and go back home and implement. Amongst the many ways, a farmer organization that wishes to become a stronger platform for youth and women should ensure that it has a solid corporate governance strategy. With a solid corporate governance strategy, for example, you have to have your constitution in order. If you are using that term, you have to have your memorandum of incorporation in order, or a charter if your organization is using that language. But this policy document should clearly illustrate how youth and women will be engaged by the farmer organization. Because even with access to finance, if you have your organization have money, but if you don't have a solid corporate governance strategy, then the organization is most likely not to succeed. This is a big topic, moderator, we can have maybe a separate webinar for it to talk about the importance of corporate governance in building stronger farmer organizations. The next one is resource mobilization. To engage women and youth meaningfully in entrepreneurship, in employment, in enabling youth and women to lead, we need resources. And this is another important topic, because all the time we know that we talk about the bottlenecks, including access to finance. So for us, the farmer organizations, we have to ensure that we have a resource mobilization strategy as part of our corporate governance. The third one is what the PAFO CEO talked about, which is bargaining power. Many of us, the farmer organizations, are not aware that we are very powerful. We have a powerful bargaining. We have a bargaining power. Even when we are aware, we do not exert this power to influence decision making and policies that are taking place at our national level, regionally, continental, and beyond. And today I would like to give an example of how PAFO, aware of its bargaining power, has exerted influence to ensure that the farmers and the producer organizations in Africa get dedicated budget from the World Bank Group. I have been very privileged that PAFO has delegated me to represent the farmers and the producer organizations in the World Bank program called Global Agriculture and Food Security Program, where I have a seat in that program as a steering committee member representing Africa. One of my responsibilities in the global agriculture and food security program, in short, it is called GAF-SP, so I will use GAF-SP in short. One of my responsibilities is to advocate for the interest of Africa civil society, particularly the farmers and the producer organizations, to ensure that farmers and producer organizations in Africa receive the saving budget allocation from the World Bank, and to ensure that they receive information on calls for proposals, how and when to apply for this global agriculture and food security program grants. And I want to announce that right now, the GAF-SP has launched its 9th country-led call for proposals. This launch was had taken place on the 13th of May 2026. And the amount allocated for this 9th call is $163 million US. Now, what do I mean by a country-led proposal? A country-led proposal meaning that the governments of eligible countries can apply. As farmer organizations or producer organizations, we cannot apply directly, but our governments for those countries that are eligible can apply for this funding. This is where the bargaining power of the farmer organization comes in. Because although as farmer organizations, we cannot apply directly for these country-led proposals, what we can do, we can use our bargaining powers as farmers anywhere in Africa, anywhere in our FAOs. We have the numbers, we are many. So what we need to do is to liaise with the respective ministers of agriculture, express our interest, and illustrate that we want to be part of the proposals. Because as an insider, I can tell you that one of the the criteria for allocating scores to deserving governments is that they are required to illustrate how they have involved farmers in a meaningful way. They can score up to 3 to 4 marks for illustrating how they are working with the farmers or the producer organizations. So after this session, let's do our homework. We go back home. We now have the information. We talk to our ministers of agriculture. What we can do after this, you just Google the 9th call GovSP, which is a global agriculture and food security program grants. The 9th call, it will take you to the website. And then you will see if your country is eligible to apply for this grant. If your country is eligible, as a farmer organization, don't waste time. Tomorrow, go to the Ministry of Agriculture and then tell them that your farmer organization is interested. I want to repeat that for the farmer organization to access the Global Fund for Agriculture and Food Security Program, you just go to Google and Google GovSP 9th call for proposals and go through it, see if your country is eligible, and if it's eligible, go to the Ministry of Agriculture to express that you want your farmer organization or producer organization to be part of this, because they are not going to also pass the evaluation if they don't include us. So let us be proactive about that. Let us not be shy. Let us not show them that we know about this this grants. Because of time, maybe I will stop here and then I will pick up the questions later if there are some questions for clarification. Thank you very much. And again, I'm grateful for PAFO for having me to represent the farmers and the producer organizations in this program of the World Bank. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A very big round of applause to this brilliant presentation and information. Please, let's congratulate Dr. Tsepa Mathabo for this. You know how we do it, the flowers and all the claps. Thank you. This marks the end of part 1, if I can call it. Now let's have a few minutes for discussions. So we have couple of questions, but in the interest of time, I will try maybe to ask at least one question per speaker before we wind up. I would like to start. I have seen a couple of questions addressed to many speakers. Let me start with Mrs. Laula.
How can we make sure that youth and women farmers in rural areas where internet connection is poor, how can we make sure that they have access to those digital platforms? How can we make sure that small and medium-sized enterprises can leverage the resources made available by COLEAD? What type of training, what is the best training which you would recommend for those producing honey?
To Genna. For instance, does your geographical scope of support include Morocco? If so, could a consultant agronomist act as intermediary between YPARD? There is another question saying that I would have wished for a value chain specific agri-food presentation. If the okay, that's not a question, it's a comment. Maybe Mrs. Genna, you will stick on that question mainly. Also asking whether you have a project in the Central African Republic. Please note these questions, then we get time very soon for every speaker to respond. To Dr. Tsepa, what are the most effective strategies that youth and women-led agribusinesses can adopt to scale sustainably, create decent jobs, and attract long-term investments? Maybe we can have these three responses from the three speakers before we go to other questions.
Thank you for the question. Now, regarding access to the e-learning tools and digital tools in general, well, in order to be able to give an input and to have access, given the reality on site, of course, these have to be accessible by design. At COLEAD, our self-learning courses can be downloaded so that you can follow them offline. So by design, we try to have light content, optimized content, so that it can be used even when connection is unstable or slow, when you have not enough bandwidth. In terms of other solutions that exist, I'm thinking of Raspberry type servers. What is it? Well, actually use a simple telephone to become your Wi-Fi connection. I know that in Togo, they used to use a simple mobile phone to be able to give information to women who were gathered around the phone, and this way they were able to have some information regarding content and they could exchange. So there are possible solutions. Now, obviously, the ideal is to have a combination of several solutions, digital, but also in presence, participation. There are also organizations of farmers and producers who can help. And so the ideal is to combine all these solutions. There was another question about how to make the best use of COLEAD resources. Well, I would say go and register on the online platform. Do it as soon as the meeting is over. Regarding honey, well, I would recommend go and look at production processing of food. All the other themes are just as interesting, but that might be the way to start for you. And then there are always some tutorials to explain how to use these, and don't hesitate to get in touch with COLEAD if you have any trouble, and we will be there to help you. Thank you very much for those answers.
To Mrs. Genna Tesdall.
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity to answer the question about the opportunity to work with Morocco and also the Central African Republic, and the method of using a consultant to serve our members better. Of course, in other countries, we do use the method of consultants to work with our young people, and often those are young people who have actually gone through training courses and actually developed a lot of skills in agronomy, in agroecology, and are able to help build networks themselves. So it's both the opportunity for young people to be employed afterwards, after the training opportunities. That being said, we do not have current country chapters that are active in Morocco or Central African Republic. That does not mean that we're not open to it. We would be very enthusiastic to have applications for country representatives in both of those countries or any of the countries that you see at the link that I provided in the chat, of course. Please note that this is a volunteer opportunity, and this is something that helps you actually connect with the international network, provide international visibility, and hopefully international credibility to your work. I think that's also maybe one of the comments that I would have to one of the questions in the chat that was from Senegal about developing a young pool of talent and facilitating links between employers and those young people. I really do believe that some of these international networks can help broker those linkages, like COLEAD, like YPARD, for example, to help you refine your messaging and also have a little bit of a competitive edge. So this is what I would answer here. In the value chain approach, of course, we like to go with a holistic approach. And so this is the reason why we don't focus on specific value chains. We find that our young people are producing a variety of different crops. And we actually very much encourage this, because if we focus on simply one value chain, it could also potentially make us vulnerable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Tsepa, are you still with us?
Thank you, moderator. The best strategy for youth and women is to partner, to engage and partner with private sector, because investment in agriculture takes time. Alone, we cannot be, we can, but it will take us time if we want to really scale up our entrepreneurship, increase productivity. It takes time. But the best way is to work with the private sector. For example, maybe 2027 or early 2028, there will be the Global Agriculture and Food Security Program will announce the 10th call, for which will be producer organizations led. It will be producer organization focus. So if we can partner with private sector to amplify or to increase the finances that will be provided, then we can be able to easily and quickly scale up our entrepreneurship. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the reply. Now, there are other questions addressed to other speakers, to Mr. Adesola, like how do you measure the needs of the market? I mean, someone who asked the question is addressing to Slabat on behalf of AGRA, like how do you measure the needs of the market? How do you ensure traceability of the production from certification processes for value additions? And the questionnaires, blockchain. There are many, but at least that many question can be answered by
Sure. I'm happy to respond to that. And I've also been trying to respond to some of the questions in the chat. So please, if you have asked any questions, specifically those directed to me or to AGRA, feel free to look at the answer section of the chat. But specifically, and I think this is an important question, because I know during the presentation, we did talk about ensuring that production meets the demands of the market. So when we say how do we measure the needs of the market, it's a critical question to ask, and also ensuring traceability of production from certification process for value addition. So I will probably answer in two parts. First, we need to know that markets are dynamic and also diverse, especially when we think about the context we operate in within Africa, and also from the angle of we trying to serve a global market, so markets in Europe, markets in North America. So first, we can look at the measurement of those market needs by even starting with the consumers or with the customers. So are we engaging with what forums are available to engage with the buyers? Can we conduct some market surveys just to do like quick, rapid assessments? Those are easy or simple tools. We can do value chain analysis, looking at specific value chains and doing measurements around consumptions, around demands over time periods. There are also, specialized firms or businesses that even look at things like consumer insights, gathering market intelligence, and what have you. So the principle is we should look to produce what the market wants, not just what as a producer we can produce. So the second bit around traceability is that traceability should also match the market requirements. So if the market requires that we maintain good records, record keeping, farm registration, internal control systems, those might be enough for local markets. But by the time you are considering premium markets, export markets, or those international markets I spoke about earlier on, then those may require digital traceability, blockchain, like you referred to, QR codes, mobile systems. So technology is important to achieve that, but the objective is much more important, and which is similar to both, giving buyers the confidence that the product that they are consuming or procuring is coming from the right origin and has the right quality and compliance. Thank you.
Thank you. We are heading to almost the end of our webinar. But before we go to key takeaways and the summary of today's webinar, let me just go back to all the speakers. In like 30 seconds, maybe you have a very burning point or something very special you didn't share with us, with the audience. And I will love, or I will suggest, if you can share also your emails in the chat box so that those who have the questions can still engage with you, because we can't answer all the questions at once by now.
Well, I don't think that I have anything else to say in 30 seconds. I think most of the things I wanted to say were said. I want to specify that some of the speakers were able to supplement what I didn't say.
Mrs. Genna Tesdall, in 30 seconds, is there any burning point you didn't share with us, with the audience?
No, just if you're interested in working with young people, we are very enthusiastic to work together. I'm sure COLEAD is very enthusiastic to work with you and the other partners here. If you're a young person in the room, of course, make sure to get in touch with the networks here in the room. I think that's one of the biggest keys to unlocking many of the questions in the chat, whether that's access to business funds or to scaling potential. We really look forward to working together, and just remember, to the youth, you are the leaders of today, not only tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Mr. Adeyemo Olusola, what do we get in short, maybe, or something you didn't mention during your intervention before we go to the conclusion?
Yeah, two quick ones from me. I think the first one I probably was not able to touch on is to emphasize again to everyone, and especially the young people, the importance of value creation across the value chains. That is how we are going to create job. Then the second one is the role of the whole ecosystem. So we've spoken about finance, market, policy, to address all those needs, training that young people have. We need to look at this holistically, and we all have a role to play. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dr. Tsepa Mathabo, you talked about the GAFSP and so many other opportunities. Is there any special point to share the audience as we are winding up?
Thank you, moderator. I want to mention that the 2027 call for proposal will be producer organization-led. That means the farmer organizations, the farmers, the producer organizations will be eligible to apply. So once it is confirmed, I will pass it through a PAFO secretariat to share with all our producer organizations. Right now, we are discussing the date of when it should be launched, so it's not yet confirmed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to all speakers. Please allow me to give a round of applause again to all speakers, all experts with their excellent contributions and very insightful discussions. We have heard so many things, information. Let's continue empowering youth. But before we leave, let's give a time to Miss Ahoefa Soklou. She has been understanding and following up everything. So now let's give her time for key takeaways. Thank you. Over to you. It was an honor for me to moderate this excellent webinar. Over to you, Soklou.
Thank you, Aimable. Thank you for the great moderation. And I will move to.
Well, thank you to all of you. Thank you to all the participants. And thank you, our panelists. As Aimable pointed out, it was a real pleasure to host you during this webinar. We are coming to the end of this 27th session of this innovation series that has been that we have been organizing over the last 4 years. Now, it is important to see how youth and women's skills can be leveraged for a sustainable impact in agriculture. One of the important key takeaways is that it's not true to say that youth and women have no ambition and are unable to contribute to the transformation of the agro system. The difficulty for them, the obstacle is the access to market, access to funding, so that they can also make their skills known. So the first message is that all those who would like to engage need, of course, to train. They need to know about the value chains, about what exists in their own regions, in their own countries, in terms of production. Now, of course, it is important to train. Sometimes it's training through experience or formal training. There is also a call for action, and it goes beyond production when we talk about agriculture. It's also processing, it's also distribution, it's also a digital presence to develop value for your company, to create jobs for youth and women in particular. So it's an integrated approach. An isolated one will not allow your company to grow. There is a real need for a whole retinue of services regarding funding, regarding mentorship, regarding equipment, information, and so on. And then another important takeaway is the essential role of producers and farmers organization, cooperatives. They are players who can play an essential role in relaying the information and the training, and they can be the link between the companies and the workers. So there is also information, precious information that can be found in programs, because a lot of information is to be found there. There are solutions to the obstacles that exist in the access to land, to mobility, to funding, and so on. We want to focus on practical information. This can be achieved by internship, apprenticeship, because you can better integrate skills and support organizers, producers, and farmers, also in finding a link between the private and the public sector, between the academic world and the communities. I would like to conclude this session by thanking you for the rich exchange, and thank you for all the comments that you've made in the chat room. This is quite reassuring because we see how relevant these topics are. The conversation doesn't stop here because there is the platform AgriNovators, and there is a hub for all the agri-entrepreneurs who can really ask all sorts of questions. Don't hesitate to use the forum to ask your questions, because it is a pleasure for us to give you solutions. And I would like to also mention the partnership that we have with CFS, that COLEAD is a member of. This is a dynamic movement, which is the International Research Consortium. It's a platform dedicated to food safety, nutritional safety. It is also focusing on sustainable agriculture, on having links between the private and the public sector, working together, producers, youth, women, collaborate at every level. And it is important to go and have a look at the platform and what it can do for you. The information is quite relevant, and I really invite you to share your initiatives and your experience. Look at the needs, use all those means that have been made available you. In October, there will be another session where we will be talking about digitalization, artificial intelligence, and how this can be used to improve the efficiency of your companies and access to market. I hope that you found this session useful, that it will strengthen collaboration amongst the various players, or that new collaborations will surface following this session. Thanks again to all of you, and I'm yielding the floor to Aimable once again. Well, once again to Ahoefa for recapping the takeaways of the webinar. It's been a real pleasure for me to moderate this session. I must say it was really an extraordinary webinar. Our speakers really were sources of inspiration.
Let me ask you one more thing as we conclude. Let's give flowers. Let's clap for everyone who has been here since the beginning up to now. Let's give ourselves, let's give the flowers to speakers, let's give claps to PAFO-COLEAD or speakers, or who attend, or who contributed, asking questions. Let's clap for us. Let's clap for us. It has been very exciting. It has been an honor for me. We keep in touch. There are more webinars coming on the way. Wishing you all the best. Wishing you success. Wishing women and youth success. Let's all go out and support youth and women where we are at the national levels, regional levels, continental levels. Why not at the global stages? Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Bye.